Hey guys, welcome back. I am Bree. If you are new here, I live in Kansas Zone 6B, and today I'm showing you my garden in August. There's been a lot of weird transition going on lately because we had a very hot July, so there was a lot of summer stuff going out, but not a lot of fall stuff going in yet. So I have a handful of garden beds that are a little bare just because the growing time, I don't really want to put my fall stuff out yet because I've always had issues with bolting. So I'm waiting a little bit, especially because of how hot the season's been. But we've had a lot of things doing well, and then we've had a lot of other things really struggling with the heat. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. So one of the first things I want to talk about today is green beans. They have been such a disappointment this year. I planted out this garden bed, the garden bed behind me, 2 additional garden beds, a trellis area, and then I also had a first succession that I ripped out as well. I have planted at least, I think, 5 or 6 packets of beans. I have planted hundreds of green bean plants, and I've gotten maybe like 5 to 10 green beans, like a handful at max. These plants, as you can see in front of me, are just struggling. They keep getting really hot. They keep just drying up and dying. All of the flower buds just they form and then they all die back. These plants aren't really getting big. I randomly made a TikTok reel about this last night because I was wondering if anyone else was having similar issues. It sounds like many of you guys are having issues with beans as well this year. So if you are as well, please let me know in the comments below. I'm really disappointed because this was the year I devoted so much of my garden space to beans because I wanted to put back like a year's worth in my freezer. I had planned out enough where I thought we would end up getting a year's worth freezer wise, and then I also wanted to play around with canning. I'm not a big fan of canned green beans, but I love canned food of my own, so I figured, you know, green beans might be worth the try this year. But they've just been absolutely disappointing. It's been really heartbreaking. I'm just gonna go ahead and rip out these plants. These ones haven't produced at all. These leaves are actually dying back. I think today I might try to go around to my nursery if I have time and grab some more bean packets and try to get one more succession out. Currently where I'm sitting, I believe we have about 68 days until our average first frost. In the last few years, our average frost has been a handful of weeks late. So if I were to get beans planted today or sometime this week, I would hope that the heat would subside a little bit and maybe I can get a crop before the frost comes. But normally we've been eating a lot of beans at this point and we haven't ate any. So it's been really, really sad. All right, so here in the front, I have my cherry tomato. I have a pink bubbly variety and it was doing very, very well again until the heat of July. So one of the issues you may notice other than like green beans is your blossoms may fall off of your tomatoes. Tomatoes do not like extreme heat as well. My tomatoes that are in my shadier area have done a little bit better, but they still haven't done too well. Our July was extremely hot and very, very dry. So they are starting to form flowers and everything now, so I'm hoping that this plant will give me a second wave. But if you're noticing that your plant just has like 0 fruit right now, that could be a big roll. I also had a few of you guys mention that the ripening this year has been late. I experienced the exact same thing. The ripening on my tomatoes was an entire month late this year compared to previous years, which I also found very interesting because my plants were the same age going out as well. And yeah, very, very interesting. So an area that's done really well for me this year has been my loofahs. My loofahs have done incredibly well. The plant is going the full length of the trellis right now. This is a 20-foot length trellis and I have 2 loofah plants on both sides. I do have some squash right here as well that you can't really tell that's intertwined, and I finally got attacked with squash bugs, and I understand why everyone now complains about them. I really have never had the issue. With a lot of my squash and vine plants, I've always had issues with vine borer, but this was the first year I got my full experience with squash bugs. I went through and picked off eggs for over an hour. One day I found hundreds. I have now found probably like 15 adults. Every time I come out here, I see a new adult. Oh my gosh, is this ready? And speaking of great trellises, I just got another cantaloupe. So cantaloupe is right here and is doing phenomenal. So I have one cantaloupe right here, guys, and it's bigger than my head. This one's a pretty good size. They've all averaged around this size, but this one that you can't see is double, if not more than double. So I plan on saving the seeds from that one. I'm so incredibly happy with this cantaloupe variety. This is Hal's Jumbo, I believe. I will put the variety down below or across the screen. They taste amazing. This was my second year doing a cantaloupe. Last year I did a Charente melon, which is a really small softball size cantaloupe, which tasted really good, but wow, these taste so good. And the production on them has been amazing. So now that a lot of the fruit has been ripening and falling off, I am getting small little buds again, and I'm getting new fruit. So I'm hoping I can get a second wave out of this cantaloupe as well. So these loofahs behind me though are actually starting to dry a little bit, which is a good sign. I'm really hoping I nailed the timing on that. And then I also have a few little, these are honey nut squashes, so they're like a butternut squash variety that's just small, little personal. So those will be really fun to play with. I'm hoping that I'm getting my squash bug problem under control. We'll soon find out. So this rainbow gem corn is another crop that's done really well for me, but it's also one that I have to wait to dry to really get any type of benefit from. So this was planted in the garden at the very beginning, just like the loofah, and it's one of those plants that will probably stay in the garden until almost the very end. So this is really starting to dry up, and with rainbow gem corn, I'm using it for popcorn purposes. You do want to fully let it dry on the stalk. You get a lot of those really pretty colors when you do that. If you pick them prematurely, you don't really get to store them correctly. When they dry on the plant, they are dry and stable, and it's the whole shit. Kind of like the loofah. So the loofah will dry on the vine, and I will use that for all different sponges. I want to play with soap making this year. We're using this again for popcorn. I also will use this for the chickens to some degree. And yeah, so that's kind of been the cool thing with this. I'm starting to see some of the colors pop out of the husk, and I'm so excited to unwrap these. I think this will be a really fun day when the time comes. I'm thinking these probably have roughly, I would think, like at least another month. We still have a lot of green on these plants. I do, I am starting to have a wasp nest form in here that I need to figure out how to control though, because I don't want to be dealing with that. Alright, so probably within the next like 2 to 3 weeks, my sunflowers will really start to clonk out. So this is my Mongolian giant. This is my second one. I also have a few others planted, but guys, I'm not impressed by the Mongolian giant. Last year, I grew Russian mammoths, which are supposed to average a few feet shorter than the Mongolian giant. And unfortunately, my Russian mammoths were significantly taller. So next year, I'm going to be planting Russian mammoths again. I'm just really not impressed by these Mongolian giants. Are they big sunflowers? Yes, but like the foliage is so much smaller, the plants are so much smaller, and honestly, these plants have no reason to be smaller. They've been fed, they've been watered the same, everything. Really though, these Goldie honey bears came out to show this year. I planted so many because I love these so much, and they do form really good seeds for the chickens. I am planning on trying to save some. They are a hybrid seed, so I might get some weird wonky ones. As you can tell, this one here looks more like a sunflower than these ones over here do. These ones are a lot more like fluffy and teddy bear like, and these are almost like a cross. And sometimes you will see that if you get a hybrid seed that's just not fully developed yet. It's there, but it's not fully there. So I am going to try to save some of these seeds this year, just because Goldie honey bear seeds can be expensive. You don't really get much. I think you get like 8 to 10 per packet for like $3, when one of these is going to give me like 80 plus seeds. So if you can seed save, I highly suggest it. You can seed save hybrids, just know you might not get the identical plant. So that might be a really fun experiment for next year. But I'm trying to milk every moment with these sunflowers. I think they're just beyond gorgeous, and I had to cut a few back the other day, and it just made me so sad. But there have been a few birds starting to get at them as well, which I don't like, because yeah, if any bird's gonna get it, it's going to be my chicken. All right, so another area in the garden that has done absolutely nothing for me is this one over here. So this area last year actually gave me problems. This is where trellis Ellis was last year, and unfortunately, I just think this area maybe just shades out a little too much. I had issues last year, but I thought redesigning this space would help a little bit and planting different types of stuff, but it's not looking like that's going to be the case. So I want to try to make this a perennial area that likes shadier plants. So I need to do some research. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. But that's going to be something I really research over the winter, and maybe try to create like maybe a really cool like medical herb garden over here or something like that. I don't really know. I think if that's a possibility, I would love to do that. But yeah, unfortunately, this is just one of those areas that's been a complete flunk for me. Probably like a 12 by 8 area that's really given me like zero production as well, which is just, yeah. All right, so now we have my Roma area, which has been a very interesting area this summer as well. So not only was I dealing with blossom fall off because of all that heat I mentioned, I was also dealing with blossom end rot this whole last July. So any fruit that did get produced more than likely ended up having blossom end rot, or it just didn't get produced. So I just had a terrible July. It's looking like I am starting to get some fruit to produce now, and it's looking like I got that blossom end rot under control. So if you're having issues with blossom end rot, it can be a combination of a few things. It could either be a watering issue, or it's just simply a nutrient issue. Your plants aren't soaking up enough calcium. So one thing to do that I typically do is just feed my plants, and it always goes away. So if you're having that issue, feed your plants. Unfortunately, for the production I'm getting in this space, it's just not it. Again, with all of the heat, it's just been really affecting production issues. I was going to get 35 Romas in this space, and the amount I'm getting out of this garden is not 35 Roma plants worth, unfortunately. So that's been really sad. I do think I'm going to get a decent harvest one more time before frost comes out of these plants. I also have some San Marzanos on a trellis that I didn't show you guys that are finally starting to produce as well. But everything is just either really late or just not producing, or it's just been a combination of things this year, and really just out of control because these plants look great. These plants are healthy, they are green, they are lush, and I've really had a lot of good luck this year with light, just not so much with production. Fortunately, other than bell peppers though, I've had a really great pepper year. I have gotten so many paprikas put back into paprika powder. I also have gotten so many jalapenos that I've been able to make a lot of jalapeno salsa. I really don't think I'm going to plant this many banana peppers again this year. So I planted about 12 to 16 of each variety of peppers this year, and I don't need this many banana peppers. I think I'd probably be good with like 4 to 6. I need like half the amount of banana and like twice the amount of cayenne. So I make all of my red chili flakes, and yum. And my cayennes are doing well, but I definitely probably should have planted just a few more. When you're making spices like that, a lot just gets compounded into a little. One thing I found so interesting was I made a video about paprika powder, and everyone was telling me how my peppers weren't paprika peppers, even though I bought actual Hungarian paprika peppers. So I ended up researching it a little bit, which I actually never knew this, which I found very interesting, is apparently a lot of the paprika powder you buy from the store is like a combination of 5 to 6 different peppers. Interesting, right? I always wondered why my paprika powder was just so much more flavorful, and now it kind of makes sense. So this was the first year I planted echinacea, and let's just say I fell in love with coneflower. I just love the texture. I love the color of them. I really want to make a cold and flu tincture with all of my coneflower. They are really starting to produce. I have cut back quite a bit of my yarrow, and it's been drying, but I've been really excited to play around with some tincture making and all of that. That's one thing I really want to get more into. I've done my own research, and I want to like find maybe like an online thing I can like dive into, because the whole medical plant herb side is just beyond fascinating, but there's just so much information that I honestly don't know if I can grasp it all myself, and it's one of those things that I really want to learn because I'm so intrigued by it all, and I just think the beauty of medical plants are just one I will probably have for life at this point. So this was the first year I really started to dive in. I've had some various things throughout the garden, like hyssop, oregano, your sage, peppermint, various other things, but nothing like echinacea or yarrow, and those are the two I found just really fun to play with this year. There's so many other little things I could show you in the garden. I have okra over here. I have another succession of okra going. I have calendula that I just planted. I have some more zinnias I planted, some more successions of carrots, and here in the next week I'm going to be planting things like bok choy, collards, and in a handful of weeks I'll be getting my cabbages and broccolis out. I'm going to be trying to get another succession of beans going. I have another succession of cucumbers going, but everything's in like this weird transition period. Summer's definitely not over, but it's definitely coming to an end. Whenever I start to harvest my sunflowers, which just happened last week, I start to feel that summer coming to an end, which makes me a little sad, but fall is honestly one of my absolute favorites. And I think as a gardener, you really start to learn and appreciate every season, and you take in the moments for what they are. Like, I think everyone thinks I'm absolutely mad because I just obsess over sunflowers for like a solid 4 to 6 weeks. That is the 4 to 6 weeks, guys, I get sunflowers. So hopefully you're my people and you understand. But again, it's been a very weird summer, and I know a lot of you guys could use some relief from the heat. Like me. This morning's been weird. My hair has probably gotten really weird throughout this whole video. It's very muggy. We actually got a random rain right before I started to make this video today, and it's actually not too shabby at the moment, even though it's kind of humid. I'll take it. But either way, guys, this is where I'm going to leave you. I hope you enjoyed the August garden tour. I'll see you all next week. Bye!